Swadika, hello and welcome to ASEAN Challenge, the show to give you the latest headlines, highlights and updates happening around your ASEAN community in two languages, Thai and English. I'm Rosalyn Tepawan.
And I'm Alisa สิทธิวงศ์ขอต้อนรับคุณผู้ชมทุกท่านเข้าสู่รายการ ASEAN Challenge ค่ะเรื่องราวในอาเซียนของเราเป็นภาษาอังกฤษและภาษาไทย
And to start off the show into ASEAN around us, let's take a look at what's happening in one of the hottest economic markets in ASEAN so far, and that is Indonesia, with a big forecast and a positive outlook ahead in the upcoming year 2018.
That's right. So we can say that this is a very good year for President Joko Widodo ahead of his upcoming elections as well, as the economy has grown, we can say, a lot since 2017 and even before that even. So if we take a look at some of the figures here in terms of the economy, taking a look at the GDP itself. The GDP in Indonesia has grown, we can say expanded from December by 5.19% year on year. This is up from 5.06% in the third quarter of 2017. And economists have expected even more growth coming in 2018 as well.
Right.
So that's just some of the figures to show that the economy in Indonesia is growing indeed.
In fact, it's growing the fastest in the past 5 years here. As you mentioned, 5% an increase, actually a lot of expansion. The forecast for the economic growth, according to Bloomberg's survey, has recently pointed out that economists are planning a huge leap in growth. Government has so far expanded the economic growth to 5.4% in 2018. Again, the fastest pace in the past 5 years. Not to mention, the highest trade surplus has also been, you could say, resulted and deduced in the past 6 years as well. So lots of growth, whether it's in the private sector, investment, whether it's in domestic capital formation. There's also a huge growth in government spending as well to maintain that stability in the economy. The government recovered from 0.3%. Now the current number is 3.8% in the third quarter of the year so far. Meanwhile, the household consumption has gone up to 4.97%, though that's mostly unchanged compared to the previous year.
That's right. So as you mentioned, of course, the growth has been driven by the private sector investment and government spending. To put that in figures, of course, private sector investment as domestic fixed capital formation rose 7.3%, and there was a growth in government spending, which also recovered to 3.8% from 0.3% in the third quarter of last year. Now, as you mentioned, household consumption, that was an increase of 4.97%, mostly unchanged from previous quarters as well. So we can see that foreign investments are picking up, inflation has subdued, more people are in jobs, and there's also a landmark infrastructure program which is taking shape as well. So if we compare this to when Joko Widodo took office in 2014, October 2014 to be exact, we can see that there's an enormous growth from the economy as well. So in that period in 2014, the economy was facing what we can say a slow economy, and inflation exceeded 8%, and also they had a weakening currency as well. So very good news indeed.
So with the elections just around the corner, the local elections taking place in June, the presidential election itself taking place in 2019, if Joko Widodo were to decide to continue for a second term, a lot of odds would be in his favor because of the rise in economic boom and also the stability we're seeing in Indonesia, more and more so. And so as the nation gears up for elections, a lot of things are changing on a positive note here. So we can look forward to many things ahead. The fiscal outlook looking quite positive here, with a budget deficit cap of 3% of the GDP. The government is now putting a lot of effort into to other areas as well in terms of boosting tax revenue to help finance various spending plans and a lot of projects to take place in Indonesia. So we can expect a lot of positive things for 2018 and beyond in Indonesia.
Right. So as you mentioned about the election plans, of course, the official campaigning for the 2019 presidential election kicked off in September, while regional elections are due to be this June as well. Now, not only is the situation within Indonesia benefiting the economy in Indonesia itself, but also from Southeast Asia as a whole, from our ASEAN community here. Exports have boomed across Southeast Asia and has benefited Indonesia as well, with the trade surplus reaching its highest in almost 6 years in September of last year, helping to keep the current account deficit under control.
Right. There's always two sides to the coin, though. While Indonesia is experiencing a lot of positive movement in the economic development sector here, there's also another counterweight to actually perhaps threaten that growth to some extent. For example, looking at China, one economist from the Goldman Sachs Group had pointed out that China's declining investment and a significant slowdown in Chinese investor movement here could actually offset the current rise and the boom in Indonesia possibly, but at the moment it's beginning at a slow stage. We'll have to see how it continues as it develops. The interest rates, while they are quite subdued, or rather inflation rates were subdued, but interest rates, according to the Federal Reserve lead central banks around the world, actually they're tightening monetary policy, which could also lead to a domino effect on Indonesia as well.
That's right. However, the economy seems to be very good, and they expect to have even better figures for 2018, so we'll have to keep you posted, of course, on the situation in terms of the economy in Indonesia as well as other places in ASEAN as well.
Right.
ค่ะมาดูกันในส่วน ASEAN Around Us ค่ะมาดูในส่วนของเศรษฐกิจของอินโดนีเซียในปีนี้นะคะก็เพิ่งเริ่มต้นปี 2018 นะคะก็มีตัวเลขที่ออกมาแล้วซึ่งทางอินโดนีเซียเนี่ยก็ถือว่าเศรษฐกิจของประเทศเนี่ยก็ได้ดีขึ้นกว่าปีที่แล้วเลยค่ะถ้ามาดูในส่วนของ GDP ของประเทศนะคะในปี 2560 ค่ะก็ได้ขยายตัว 5.1% นะคะเพิ่มขึ้น 0.1% จากสถิติของปี 2559 นั่นเองนะคะซึ่งขยายตัวที่ 5.0% นั่นเองในส่วนตรงนี้นะคะก็ถือว่าเป็นเรื่องที่ดีสำหรับประธานาธิบดีโจโกวิโดโดซึ่งจะได้มีการเลือกตั้งในปีนี้เช่นเดียวกันนะคะก็ได้ประกาศออกไปว่าคือทางประธานาธิบดีก็ได้ประกาศออกไปว่าจริงๆแล้วอยากจะให้เป้าหมายสุดท้ายแล้วไปถึง GDP ที่ขยายตัวถึง 7.0% เลยโดยที่ขณะนี้นะคะทางรัฐบาลของอินโดนีเซียก็ได้ออกมาตรการกระตุ้นเศรษฐกิจหลายชุดเลยทีเดียวแล้วก็นอกจากนี้นะคะทางธนาคารกลางก็ได้ลดดอกเบี้ยจาก 4.75 เหลือ 4.5% นะคะเมื่อเดือนสิงหาคมปีที่แล้วเพื่อที่จะกระตุ้นเศรษฐกิจเพิ่มเติม
นับว่าเศรษฐกิจตอนนี้ก็ได้ขยายตัวมากนะคะถ้าเทียบกับปีก่อนหน้านี้ตั้งแต่ปี 2014 แล้วได้เห็นการพัฒนาของเศรษฐกิจของอินโดนีเซียได้มากมายเลยนะคะเพราะฉะนั้นในการเลือกตั้งปี 2019 นี้เราก็คงได้เห็นคนอย่างเช่นโจโควิโดโดได้ลงเลือกตั้งแล้วก็ได้รับคะแนนอีกเยอะนะคะจากการพัฒนาเศรษฐกิจแต่ในเวลาเดียวกันเราก็มาดูอีกมุมหนึ่งนะคะว่านโยบายของประเทศ reform ยกตัวอย่างนะคะก็ยังไม่ค่อยเร็วเท่าเศรษฐกิจเท่าไหร่แต่ว่าเศรษฐกิจก็นับว่าเป็นอะไรที่ดีมากในขณะนี้นะคะจากประเทศอินโดนีเซียแล้วก็จะคอยจับตาดูต่อไปค่ะ
ถูกต้องค่ะสำหรับใครที่อยากจะติดตามในส่วนของการเลือกตั้งนะคะที่จะเกิดขึ้นในปี 2562 นะคะก็ได้มีการรณรงค์กันเรียบร้อยแล้วแล้วก็จะมีการเลือกตั้งระดับภูมิภาคซึ่งจะครบกำหนดในเดือนมิถุนายนปีนี้ด้วยก็ต้องติดตามดูนะคะว่าการเลือกตั้งจะเป็นยังไงแล้วจะมีผลยังไงกับเศรษฐกิจต่อไป
แน่นอนค่ะ
With that said, we're going to take a short break now and we'll be back for some more news updates coming soon.
Stay tuned. Welcome back to the program. Into ASEAN hot issues now. We update you on the situation happening around ASEAN and beyond over the past week and beyond as well. Starting off with updates coming from Singapore. One of the biggest shows of the year is none other than the Singapore Airshow, which just took place, that showcased many different new planes and projects, including the A350-1000, pitting it against Boeing and Boeing 777. So it's a very competitive show as well. But Airbus started showcasing their latest jet, A350-1000, at the show on Monday, February 5th, attracting lots of new customers to its new aircraft. And at the same time, a larger version of its A350 series had been on display as well, launched to compete against Boeing 777. And so it's trying to, both companies are trying to reach out and tap into that 400-seat market.
That's right. So the event took place, as mentioned, until the 11th of February at the Changi Exhibition Center. And as you mentioned, they're trying to tap into the 400-seat market, in which, of course, we mentioned that it is the A350-1000 is the largest version of the A350 series. And so far, the aircraft has received 169 orders from 11 different operators. And Airbus has delivered the first ever A350-1000 jet to Qatar Airways in January. So they've said that the delivery, of course, added high level of expectation to Qatar Airways, and of course Qatar Airways, their feedback was they loved the aircraft.
Oh, good news indeed. And not just that, they have high levels of expectations which were all met by this aircraft as well. So this definitely is a signal to expanding routes all around the world of various airlines hoping to tap into the bigger markets. Flying has become faster and easier than ever before, and with these aircrafts getting bigger and bigger and tapping into more travelers, bigger markets, we'll probably see more routes opening up and a lot more facilitation of these travels as well as these companies continue to expand.
ใช่ละค่ะมาดูกันในส่วนข่าวแรกเนี่ยอาเซียนฮอตอิชชูนะคะในประเทศสิงคโปร์นั่นเองค่ะก็ได้จัดงานสิงคโปร์ Airshow 2560 หรือว่าสิงคโปร์ Airshow 2018 นั่นเองนะคะซึ่งได้จัดขึ้นเมื่อวันที่ 5-11 กุมภาพันธ์ 2561 นะคะณ Changi Exhibition Center นั่นเองนะคะโดยได้จัดแบ่งการแสดงออกเป็น2ช่วงนะคะช่วงแรกก็จะเป็นให้บริษัทหรือหน่วยงานต่างๆเนี่ยได้มาหารือระหว่างกันนะคะแล้วก็ระหว่างวันที่ 6-8 กุมภาอันนี้ก็คือ 6-8 กุมภานะคะส่วนวันที่ 10-11 กุมภาก็ได้ให้ประชาชนหรือบุคคลทั่วไปได้เข้าไปชมนะคะในครั้งนี้นะคะไฮไลท์ของปีนี้ก็ได้มีเครื่องบิน Airbus นะคะซึ่งได้ส่งตัวเครื่องยนต์A350-1000 นะคะเข้ามาสู้กับ Boeing 777S ในตลาดเครื่องบิน400ที่นั่ง
ค่ะก็นับว่าเครื่องบินก็ใหญ่ขึ้นทุกทีนะคะได้พัฒนามากขึ้นเรื่อยๆแล้วก็ได้โชว์เคสเทคโนโลยีล่าสุดของทั้ง2บริษัทไม่ว่าจะเป็น Boeing หรือว่า Airbus เช่นกันค่ะเราก็จะได้เห็นในอนาคตนะคะว่ามีการขยายไม่ว่ารูทการเดินทางสายการบินต่างๆนะคะหรือว่าทางเครื่องบินเองก็ด้วยคงจะมีการเดินทางมากขึ้นนะคะในอนาคต
ถูกต้องค่ะสำหรับใครที่อยากจะนั่งนะคะเครื่องบิน A360-1000 นะคะก็สามารถที่จะนั่งได้แล้วของ Qatar Airways ค่ะเพราะว่าได้ส่งไปให้ Qatar Airways เมื่อเดือนมกราคมเป็นที่เรียบร้อยแล้ว
So we'll update you on the details concerning updates in air travel and air technology aviation news in the future as well. But in other updates here, let's turn to a more you could say politics happening in Cambodia. So from Singapore, we head over to Cambodia now to update on the developments concerning the political, you could say, snowballing happening among the upcoming election news in Cambodia. In the latest updates here, Cambodian court had rejected a plea for bail by detained opposition leader Kem Sokha following his arrest last year on charges of seeking to overthrow the government. This move as well solidifies Hun Sen, the current leader of Cambodia's move in the upcoming elections happening twice this year.
That's right. So his party, which is now dissolved as well, the Cambodian National Rescue Party, as we mentioned last year, Kem Sokha was arrested September 3rd of last year, and right groups have criticized the crackdown as Cambodia prepares to hold 2 elections this year. And the CNRP's dissolution and the jailing of Kem Sokha have removed the biggest challenge to Hun Sen, we can say, in facing the polls. A Senate election is set for the 25th of February, and a general election is due in July.
Right, and so with the crackdown on any opposition coming from the current authoritarian Prime Minister Hun Sen, we see a lot of, you could say, obstacles being removed one by one, not only newspapers and media, but also opposition leaders and parties, as political parties as well. In the meantime, lawyers for Kem Sokha, who sought the bail recently on the ground that he suffers from high blood pressure and diabetes, have cited concerns regarding the reason for the objection being the removal of political opposition. But on the other hand, Hun Sen had rejected and declined those accusations. So we'll have to keep monitoring the situation to see what and who takes the next move next.
ใช่แล้วค่ะไปกันต่อที่ข่าวจากประเทศกัมพูชานะคะหันมาทางการเมืองกันบ้างนะคะซึ่งทางศาลกัมพูชาค่ะก็ได้ปฏิเสธคำร้องขอให้ประกันตัวนายเขมโซคานะคะผู้นำพรรคฝ่ายค้านหลังจากที่ถูกจับกุมเมื่อปีที่แล้วในข้อหาพยายามโค่นล้มรัฐบาลนั่นเองค่ะซึ่งนายเขมโซคานะคะก็เป็นหัวหน้าพรรคกู้ชาติแห่งชาติกัมพูชาหรือว่า CNRP นะคะซึ่งพรรคนี้ก็ได้ถูกยุบตัวในขณะที่จับตัวไปเมื่อวันที่3กันยายนที่ปีที่แล้วนั่นเองนะคะส่วนด้านทนายของนายเขมโซคานะคะก็ได้เป็นคนที่ขอประกันตัวนั่นเองโดยใช้เหตุผลว่าเขาได้ทุกข์ทรมานจากความดันโลหิตสูงแล้วก็เป็นโรคเบาหวานด้วยอย่างไรก็ตามก็โดนปฏิเสธไปไม่ให้ประกันตัวออกมา
ค่ะเราก็จะคอยอัปเดตนะคะว่าเหตุการณ์ในประเทศกัมพูชาจะมีการดำเนินการยังไงต่อบ้างไม่ว่าจะจากฝั่งของเข็มศกหรือว่าฝั่งฮุนเซนนะคะเราจะคอยอัปเดตเช่นกัน but in the meantime going to lighter updates here from Cambodia over to Singapore as the chair for ASEAN meetings this year Singapore has arranged the first ASEAN meeting so far among 10 member Southeast Asian nations of ASEAN. And on February 6th, the first meeting happened under the City of the State's chair, where they set a platform for discussions for the year to come.
That's right. So as we know that the meetings, a signature of the meeting would be the handshake from the ASEAN leaders. Now for this meeting specifically, however, in order to go into the theme of ASEAN this year, and that's of course innovation, instead of shaking hands or traditional interlocking handshake, what they did instead was a hand wave instead, signaling hello or signaling the greeting instead. So innovation to go with the theme as we can see on screen at the moment.
Right, so a formal meeting but an informal handshake, perhaps a symbol of just setting the groundmarks and the groundworks for the upcoming meetings to come. So handshakes, there you go, friendly greetings coming from the 10 ASEAN member leaders. But so far, the theme for the upcoming year is going to tackle important issues like resilience, innovation, like you mentioned. Also, objectives include extremist threats as well as cybersecurity and regional extradition treaty formations as well. So these will be the big headlines of the meetings to come.
That's right. So of course, as mentioned, that this event was held in Singapore. So the Singapore Minister for Foreign Affairs, Vivian Balakrishnan, has said in his opening statement that establishing an ASEAN smart city network to help improve small and medium businesses was also high on the agenda as well. So we have a sound bite for you to listen to the Singapore Minister of Foreign Affairs. เดี๋ยวเราจะไปรับฟังรัฐมนตรีต่างประเทศของสิงคโปร์กันในการประชุม10ประเทศอาเซียนค่ะ
The themes of resilience and innovation will, we believe, strengthen ASEAN's efforts across the three community pillars which we already have. And we need to enhance our collective resilience against common threats, transboundary threats like terrorism, transnational crime, cybercrime. We want to establish an ASEAN smart cities network in order to expand opportunities for our people and our small and medium local enterprises in the midst of a digital revolution.
All right, so that was the Singapore Minister for Foreign Affairs, Vivian Balakrishnan, in his opening statement.
Right, indeed. มาดูการประชุมครั้งแรกของ ผู้นำอาเซียนนะคะที่ประเทศสิงคโปร์ซึ่งเป็น chairman ของการประชุมอาเซียนปีนี้นะคะแล้วเราก็เห็นความแตกต่างของประเทศสิงคโปร์ในการประชุมครั้งแรกเลยใช่ไหมคะ
ถูกต้องค่ะก็เพื่อให้สอดคล้องกับธีมหลักในปีนี้นะคะสำหรับอาเซียนนะคะก็คือการขับเคลื่อนด้วยนวัตกรรมนะคะคือทางรัฐมนตรีต่างประเทศของแต่ละประเทศเนี่ยค่ะก็ได้เริ่มการประชุมโดยที่ไม่ต้องจับมือกันแบบดั้งเดิมนะคะแต่ว่าแทนที่จะจับมือแบบดั้งเดิมก็ใช้วิธีระบบมือส่งสัญญาณการเคลื่อนไหวแทนค่ะเมื่อสักครู่นี้เราก็ได้ฟังทางรัฐมนตรีต่างประเทศของสิงคโปร์ในการพูดกล่าวเปิดงานที่เป็นเรียบร้อยแล้วค่ะ
ค่ะก็พูดถึงหลายสิ่งที่สำคัญนะคะในการประชุมปีนี้จะพูดถึงเรื่องการก่อการร้ายแล้วก็ Cyber Security ทางออนไลน์นะคะแล้วก็หลายจุดสำคัญที่ทางประเทศอาเซียนก็จะคอยสื่อสารกันแล้วก็ทำข้อตกลงในการ Treaty หรือว่า MOU เช่นกันค่ะ
Moving on to some news updates now, turning to Myanmar and the situation revolving the journalists who have been arrested. The United Nations Human Rights Office has called on February 2nd on Myanmar authorities to release these journalists who were Reuters journalists and they're Myanmar natives, of course. The UN Human Rights spokesperson Rupert Colville told reporters in Geneva that they are alarmed that the serious erosion of freedom of expression has occurred in Myanmar. So, of course, this has occurred recently, and the two journalists, Wa Lone, age 31, and Kyo So-u, age 27, were covering a crisis in the Rakhine State, and they were arrested for that.
Right, so the issues surrounding Rakhine State, the military crackdown, the alleged genocide happening among the military officials, for example, and Rakhine insurgents, they say, still continue to escalate, and with the recent arrest of the two journalists and Myanmar's court declining to grant bail for them also continues to escalate the matter as well. The reporters earlier were detained on December 12th after they'd been invited to meet police officers over dinner. That was when they were detained. So upcoming here, the hearings, their second one, the following hearing actually happened on February 6th, where they'll try to work out and determine whether or not the two should face charges under the Official Secrets Act, to which authorities say that the journalists obtained secrets that were detrimental to their campaign.
That's right. So if charged, of course, the maximum they could be jailed for is 14 years. So, of course, the UN has come in to step in to, of course, call on Myanmar to release these two.
So we'll keep you posted on those developments and how authorities respond to the UN's call.
ใช่แล้วค่ะมาดูกันที่ประเทศเมียนมากันบ้างค่ะซึ่งทางสหประชาชาตินะคะก็ได้เรียกร้องให้เมียนมาปล่อยตัวนักข่าวรอยเตอร์2ท่านนะคะซึ่งเป็นชาวเมียนมานั่นเองที่ถูกควบคุมตัวในเมียนมานะคะซึ่งทาง UN นะคะก็ได้แสดงความวิตกกังวลเป็นอย่างยิ่งต่อเสรีภาพของสื่อมวลชนในประเทศเมียนมาก่อนหน้านี้นะคะก็มีทางศาลในกรุงย่างกุ้งของเมียนมาค่ะก็ได้ก็ไม่อนุญาตให้ประกันตัวนักข่าวของสำนักข่าวรอยเตอร์2ท่านนี้นะคะที่ถูกจับกุมและถูกตั้งข้อหาเกี่ยวกับการละเมิดกฎหมายความลับของทางการที่อาจจะทำให้ทั้งสองนะคะต้องจำคุกเป็นเวลา14ปี2ท่านนี้นะคะก็มีนามว่านายวะโลวัยอายุ31ปีแล้วก็นายจอโซอูวัย27ปีค่ะ
ค่ะเราก็จะคอยติดตามดูนะคะว่าจะมียังไงการดำเนินการคืบหน้ายังไงบ้างกับคดีนี้นะคะซึ่งสำคัญมากสำหรับวงการผู้สื่อข่าวเช่นกันค่ะSo we'll keep you updated on those details. But meanwhile, it's time for a short break. When we come back, though, lighter updates happening in your ASEAN calendar. Stay tuned.
พักกันสักครู่ค่ะ
Welcome back to the show. Into ASEAN calendar, lots of highlights to mark your dates with coming up in ASEAN.
ใช่แล้วค่ะในช่วงนี้ค่ะ ASEAN calendar ไปดูกันว่ามีอีเวนต์อะไรกำลังจะเกิดขึ้นกันบ้างค่ะ
The 16th of February 2018, Chinese New Year. The Chinese New Year, or Spring Festival as it's been called since the 20th century, remains the most important social and economic holiday in China. Originally tied to the lunar solar Chinese calendar, the holiday was a time of honor to the households and heavenly deities as well as ancestors. It was also a time to bring family together for feasting. With the popular adoption in China of the Western calendar in 1912, the Chinese joined in celebrating January 1st as New Year's Day. China, however, continues to celebrate the traditional Chinese New Year, although in a shorter version with a new name, the Spring Festival. Significantly younger generations of Chinese now observe the holiday in a very different manner from their ancestors. For some young people, the holiday has evolved from an opportunity to renew family ties to a chance for relaxation from work. Traditional food. A reunion dinner is held on New Year's Eve, during which family members gather for celebration. The venue will usually be in or near the home of the most senior member of the family. The New Year's Eve dinner is very large and sumptuous and traditionally includes dishes of meat, namely chicken and pork, and fish. Most reunion dinners also feature a communal hot pot, as it is believed to signify the coming together of the family members for the meal. Most reunion dinners also prominently feature specialty meats and seafood that are usually reserved for this and other special occasions during the remainder of the year. In most areas, fish is included but not eaten completely, as the Chinese phrase, "May there be surpluses every year," sounds the same as "let there be fish every year." 8 individual dishes are served to reflect the belief of good fortune associated with the number. If in the previous year a death was experienced in the family, 7 dishes are served. Red packets for the immediate family are sometimes distributed during the reunion dinner. These packets often contain money in certain numbers that reflect good luck and honorability. Several foods are consumed to usher in the wealth, happiness, and good fortune. Several of the Chinese food names are homophones for words that also mean good things. Like many other New Year dishes, certain ingredients also take special precedence over others, as these ingredients also has similar sounding names with prosperity, good luck, or even counting money. Traditionally, red envelopes are passed out during Chinese New Year celebrations from married couples or the elderly to unmarried juniors. It is also common for adults or young couples to give red packets to children. Red packets almost always contain money, usually varying from a couple of dollars to several hundred. Per custom, the amount of money in the red packets should be of even numbers, as odd numbers are associated with cash given during funerals. The number 8 is considered lucky, as it sounds like smooth, in the sense of having a smooth year. The number 4 is the worst because its homophone sounds like death. Sometimes chocolate coins are found in red packets. Odd and even numbers are determined by the first digit rather than the last. 30 and 50, for example, are odd numbers, and are thus appropriate as funeral cash gifts. However, it is common and quite acceptable to have cash gifts in a red packet using a single banknote, with 10 or 50 yuan bills used frequently. It is customary for the bills to be brand new printed money. Everything regarding the new year has to be new in order to have good luck and fortune. The act of asking for red packets is normally called. A married person would not turn down such a request, as it would mean that he or she would be out of luck in the new year. Red packets are generally given by established married couples to the younger non-married children of the family. It is custom and polite for children to wish elders a happy new year and a year of happiness, health, and good fortune before accepting the red envelope. Red envelopes are then kept under the pillow and slept on for 7 nights after Chinese New Year before opening, because that symbolizes good luck and fortune. In Taiwan in the 2000s, some employers also gave red packets as a bonus to maids, nurses, or domestic workers from Southeast Asian countries, although whether this is appropriate is controversial. The Japanese have a similar tradition of giving money during the new year. Gift exchange, Chinese candy box. In addition to red envelopes, which are usually given from older people to younger people, small gifts, usually food or sweets, are also exchanged between friends or relatives of different households during Chinese New Year. Gifts are usually brought when visiting friends or relatives at their homes. Common gifts include fruits, typically oranges and never pears, cakes, biscuits, chocolates, and candies. Certain items should not be given as they are considered taboo. Taboo gifts include items associated with funerals, for example, handkerchiefs, towels, chrysanthemums, items colored white and black, items that show that time is running out, for example, clocks and watches, sharp objects that symbolize cutting a tie, such as scissors and knives, items that symbolize that you want to walk away from a relationship, example, shoes and sandals, mirrors, homonyms for unpleasant topics, for example, clock, which sounds like the funeral ritual, green hats because wear a green hat sounds like cold, handkerchief sounds like goodbye, pear sounds like separate, and umbrella sounds like disperse.
National Day in Brunei. When is Brunei National Day? Brunei National Day, or Hari Nasional Day in Malay, is always celebrated on the 23rd of February. This holiday marks full independence from the United Kingdom in 1984. It's the National Day of Brunei. History of Brunei National Day. At the turn of the 15th century, the Bruneian emperor under the leadership of Sultan Bolkiah emerged as an important power within the Malay archipelago, controlling several regions in Borneo. During the 19th century, the influence and domain of the Bruneian Empire was starting to wane, eventually becoming a British protectorate in 1888. Brunei was occupied by the Japanese during World War II, invading only a week after the attack on Pearl Harbor. Brunei was liberated by Australian forces in June 1945. In 1959, a new constitution was adopted that declared Brunei a self-governing state, though foreign affairs, security, and defense matters remained under the control of Britain. Despite a minor rebellion that was suppressed in 1962, Brunei's position as a UK protectorate was largely peaceful. On January 1, 1984, Brunei gained its independence from the United Kingdom. The official name of the country is Sultanate of Brunei, Abode of Peace, or Negara Brunei Darussalam in Malay. Even though Brunei became independent on January 1, 1984, British control formally ended on February 23, 1984, so it's this date that now commemorates Brunei's independence. How is Brunei National Day celebrated? This holiday was first celebrated on February 23, 1984. It's become a popular holiday with the national flag as a common sight in the streets and on buildings. A large parade is held in the National Stadium. It's also become a tradition for people to visit their mosques and offer prayers to celebrate the country's independence.
And those were the events for ASEAN calendar this week. With that said, we're going to take another short break and we'll be back soon.
Welcome back to the show. Into ASEAN Challenge. Next up, we take a look at the recent ASEAN interview with focus this time on a UN ambassador, namely none other than Angelina Jolie, urging NATO now to crack down on sexual violence in war as a way to protect women's rights.
ใช่แล้วค่ะในช่วงนี้ค่ะ ASEAN Interview ค่ะเราจะพาคุณผู้ชมไปพบกับแองเจลิน่าโจลีค่ะซึ่งเธอได้ผลิตภาพยนตร์แห่งปีนะคะชื่อเรื่องว่า First They Killed My Father ค่ะที่เป็นเกี่ยวกับการละเมิดสิทธิมนุษยชนและชีวิต วิตของผู้คนในกัมพูชาในช่วงสงครามหรือว่าปี 1970 นั่นเองนะคะในสมัยที่เขมรแดงได้เรืองอำนาจนั่นเองค่ะเธอได้ออกมาเรียกร้องให้นาโต้นะคะดำเนินอย่างจริงจังในการยุติการคุกคามทางเพศในฐานะเป็นเครื่องมือทำผู้คนในช่วงสงครามนั่นเองนะคะเดี๋ยวไปติดตามการสัมภาษณ์กับรอยเตอร์กันค่ะ UN Refugee Agency Special Envoy Angelina Jolie called on NATO on Wednesday, January 31st, to help stop the use of sexual violence as a weapon of war, as the Hollywood star broadened her international efforts to protect women's rights. Jolie, who earlier this week visited a Syrian refugee camp in Jordan, made her appeal to the U.S.-led alliance's top decision-making body, the North Atlantic Council, in Brussels, and later met NATO military commanders.
UN Special Envoy Angelina Jolie.
There can be no lasting peace and security without equal rights and participation for women in all societies. And those rights cannot be achieved in an environment where there is impunity for mass crimes against women and girls.
NATO, which counts 29 members and has missions from Kosovo to Afghanistan, has agreed to help report on sexual violence in war to help bring perpetrators to justice and challenge the idea that rape is an unavoidable aspect of conflict. Jolie, a mother of 6 who last year released her film First They Killed My Father about Cambodia's Khmer Rouge regime in the 1970s, said she had met victims of sexual violence in conflict and was trying to be a voice for them. Expressing frustration at the lack of assistance available to victims, Jolie said she hoped that NATO could help by raising standards in other militaries through its training programs abroad, as well as promoting the role of women in military.
Violence against women and children, particularly sexual violence, is an increasing feature of conflict and insecurity worldwide. Yet the use of rape as a weapon of war has been regarded inevitable feature of conflict as a lesser crime and a problem too difficult or too uncomfortable for societies to address. I'm very concerned about the Rohingya. I'm very angry that the response internationally has been lacking. I'm very concerned about the stories of the 10-year-old girls who are being raped, and there's a lot of discussion. There's maybe too much discussion and very, very little action, and we see this is all too often the case these days.
Jolie singled out the plight of Rohingya refugees fleeing violence in Myanmar and what she said was the inadequate response of many governments around the world.
It's about more women in the armed forces. And one of the issues we really are working on in many of our partner countries, for instance, in Kosovo, in Afghanistan, in Jordan and other places, is how to have more female soldiers and also more female police. We are training them, we are empowering them, and we believe that more women in the armed forces is good for the empowerment of women, but is also good for our security and for the armed forces.
This fight for equality, somebody said the other day about giving women their rights. You don't give it to them, they have it. They're born with their rights. This is something that, every woman, every girl was born with her human rights, and we must protect them and fight for them. So it's a pleasure.
With some 65 million people forced from their homes by conflict as of the end of 2016, Jolie said the sheer scale of the refugee crisis worldwide felt overwhelming.
And that wraps up ASEAN Challenge this week. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you again very soon next week. For now, สวัสดีค่ะ
สวัสดีค่ะ